What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the remote front office here. As always, before we get started, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn the notification bells on, all those YouTuber type things. We are slowly growing here. I do appreciate everybody's support as we get this channel up and off the ground. I understand I probably didn't pick the greatest time of year to get this up and off the ground, but we are here with 3 videos a week. So the topic today is going to be Jaylen Brown's extension. First and foremost, I do want to touch on something first. Bronny James, over this past couple of days, was hospitalized for some heart condition that he suffered during a USC workout. Thoughts with him, obviously. It's always tough to see, especially the younger guys, really go through this. I know for those of you that were around, you watched kind of Chris Bosh go through something heart related, and it's always really tough to see, especially when they're guys that are freshmen going into the freshman year of college. It's always really hard to see. So hopefully he is up and on the mend and working towards a quick recovery. Obviously, I'm not going to talk anything basketball related as far as that goes because there's no point, right? That's something that is strictly an off the court thing. Wish the best for him. No opinion one way or the other. But wanted to get that out of the way before we got started. Today's video, we are discussing what has finally happened. We are almost at the end of July. People were starting to get nervous. Celtics fans were worrying he was in a name trade, but it is official. Jaylen Brown has signed a 5-year, $305 million max extension. Don't look at the per year numbers. They'll make you a little sick. I understand this is the way the cap is going. We've been saying this for years. When Mike Conley got his, everybody threw a fit. When, Steph got an extension, when Dame got an extension, everybody saw the per year numbers and was like, oh my God, are we serious? This is what we're going to pay guys this amount for every year. It's just the way the cap's going. And the last year on that, Celtics fans, I understand maybe it'll become a more normal number once we get to that point, but seeing 70 M's in a final year of a deal. Whew. The one thing I will say, does Jaylen Brown deserve this extension? With how the NBA works, yes. Would I like to see supermaxes and max deals in generally work differently? Absolutely. I feel like there should be more of a tier for who gets a supermax and who doesn't get a supermax, and also who gets a max and who doesn't get a max. But I feel like that's a whole separate conversation. I do, again, just want to say congratulations to Jaylen Brown. As far as the Celtics go, this makes your cap sheet rather messy for the next 5 years. You've got Tatum on his max. You've got Porzingis on an extension. You've got Robert Williams on a pretty good deal. Al Horford's on an expiring. Derek White, who has now officially been announced as your starting point guard, I believe has another year after this year. You're going to have to get creative. You're going to have to start acquiring maybe some later round picks, like some late firsts, ideally, in like a Milwaukee almost situation. I feel like it's probably your best bet, and hope you really hit on one of those guys, because your roster is going to be pretty limited as far as what you can do. Once the second apron kicks in, you're going to be really, really restricted. Another thing to note with Jaylen Brown getting an extension is he cannot be traded this year. So all the very few Celtics fans I've heard that wanted Dame, it's not happening. Because you're not giving up Tatum, and Jaylen Brown can't be traded for a year. So it's a done deal. Dame is no longer going to Boston. That is out of the way. The one thing I will say is, since it is here within the first couple of days of this, we do not know exactly what is considered likely incentives and what is considered unlikely incentives. Essentially, for those that don't know, NBA teams structure things like this so that when the agent puts out the tweet of, hey, I got my guy 5 years at this amount, this is what's happening, right? In reality, there's some behind the scenes stuff. Like, if you guys remember with the Joel Embiid contract, if he missed games due to a particular injury, if he only played a certain amount of games, he lost a certain amount of that contract, right? Obviously, I'm assuming Jaylen Brown will have some sort of incentive structure in there. Assuming All-Star, All-NBA, maybe even playoff games, minutes, something like that. He will have something in there in order for him to hit that full 305, right? It could be $1 million, it could be $2 million, it could be $500,000. I know some guys have had really random ones where, because of how the team's tax bill was, it was like $1 if they won a championship or something, and that was considered an unlikely incentive because obviously only one team wins that every year. But as the Celtics, I mean, you had to do it, right? You didn't have a choice. There was no pivot off of this, really. You weren't going to get somebody back of Jaylen Brown's caliber if you traded him, right? So at the end of the day, the deal is done. I think it makes sense for both sides. The Celtics going forward, I am curious to see how they fare this year as far as you are relying a lot on your big man rotation of Al Horford, who's just getting up there in age. Robert Williams isn't the greatest bill of health. Porzingis isn't the greatest bill of health. Uh, Brown and Tatum, I feel like, are pretty healthy pretty consistently, as is Derek White. But you're also relying on Malcolm Brogdon, who's got injury problems. And I just think, all in all, you're relying a lot on this roster of being healthy at the right time. I wish nothing but the best for this team. And I'm really curious to see how it plays out. I think they take a step back defensively. You lost Marcus Smart. You lost your heart and soul. So I think that is going to take a dip. But I think the offense for this team just got so much more dynamic, right? Because you now have, instead of Al Horford in a corner, you have Porzingis, or you can have Al Horford and Porzingis. You can still run big lineups while maintaining spacing. You can run Rob Williams and you can run Porzingis. You can run Porzingis by himself. He's a pretty decent run protector. You can run Al Horford by himself still. I think there's a lot of variables that this team can now work with. And I'm just kind of curious how that rotation plays out. So as of right now, I'm assuming Brogdon is the sixth man. I'm assuming Horford is also off the bench unless you're benching Rob Williams. I understand Rob Williams' minutes, for whatever reason, seem to dip every year. But personally, the minutes he plays, I like him. As an energizer, as a lob threat, as a defender, shot blocker. I just think he's necessary for this team. I understand maybe if they go Horford and Porzingis to start. But I think as time goes on, I think it'll become more of a Porzingis, Rob Williams type of team. But other than that, that's really all I wanted to cover today. I just wanted to say congratulations to Jaylen Brown. It's an extension. He deserved it. Maybe in a future video, we'll get into more of my thoughts on the structuring of how teams should view a max and a super max and the tier of player that should get each. But I feel like that's just kind of a longer conversation for another day. But I appreciate everybody coming through. I will catch you guys with a video on Friday. Peace.